look at a year ago, we see the unit in dollars up 46% and 35%. At that point, we were home for a year. We had built up savings, stimulus checks, people really ready to get out and spend. So comparing to this huge growth, it makes sense that we're going to see these declines, especially in demand. What I do want to point out is that compared to pre-pandemic 2019, dollars and units are still higher. So if we remove 2021 and even 2020, those big seesaw years of declines in 2020 and growth in 2021, we're still kind of on a path for growth here. So it's important to really look at those comparative years when you're looking at growth and decline. So like I'd mentioned earlier, a big part of that price increase that we saw, that decline of 7% in units and that growth in dollars, is really a result of an increase in prices. Now, we're all consumers, and we all are aware of the price increases were going on. And we know, 89% of people, 89% of consumers in February said that they were aware of price increases. And this number actually jumps to 95% when we look at consumers over the age of 55. Now, when we ask them about the top categories they noticed these price increases in, 87% said food, 77% said gas. Then you see about half is dining, and just under half is apparel. So apparel really being one of the top categories that consumers are spending more money and aware of these prices. And we know that more consumers are factoring price when they're buying apparel. So now we've asked the same question consistently over the past few years. When buying clothes for yourself, which of the following is the most important to you? So look at 2018 in the blue. It was pretty even. Comfort and price were pretty close to each other, with more opting for comfort. Then the pandemic hits. We see this big swing towards comfort. We were home, not spending money on going out or transportation, and we saw price really wasn't that big of a factor in buying some more discretionary items. Now, in 2022, we've kind of seen that swing back to price mattering to more consumers. Comfort is still number one, but price is really growing in importance. So again, it's really important to keep that in mind when you think of your consumer base, how prices are increasing across the board, and they're a little bit more price conscious than they might have been these past few years. And we see that consumers are shopping differently as a result. When we ask consumers who notice the price increases if they're shopping differently, 70% said yes, they are shopping differently to some degree. Whether they're looking for alternative products, shopping around for a better price, or even just delaying a purchase altogether. We're really seeing prices are affecting their decision. So one of the things that we talk about that really might be a driver of purchases is an immediate need. So when we know consumers buy apparel in the season when they need it. So thinking about what's upcoming for her. Maybe she has a wedding to go to, or she's heading back into the office. Think about the intimates, the needs that she's going to have to fill. Maybe she's looking for shapewear to wear to a wedding. She's been buying sports bras and bralettes the past few years. She might not be willing to splurge on something like that, but if she has an immediate need of an event, she's going to be more focused on items for that. So just think about that over the next few months of the needs that are going to be coming up, that back to work, back to school, even holiday, and those immediate needs are really what's going to drive purchases. So one thing I do want to call out is while we're seeing consumers are noticing these price increases across the board, not all consumers are responding the same way. These price increases aren't affecting consumers the same. So here we're looking at spend by household income, dollar percent change versus a year ago. And we see that it was really that higher end household income really driving growth. Their spend in apparel has grown 11% versus last year, almost double, 50 to 99,000. So again, we're seeing, maybe a lower end consumer pulling back a bit more, but what we're noticing is that a higher end consumer, their spending has really gone a bit unfazed, especially as we're seeing a lot of shifts from different mass and retailers. So with that being said, focus on who your consumer is. How is your consumer different? What is the price point your consumer is focused on, and what are they willing to spend on? Because again, it came out to this week. that we're in a recession and it possibly might be happening. So we see, though, not all consumers are pulling back in the same way. So I think understanding who your target consumers are and where their pockets for growth are going to be crucial going forward, because we're not expecting this huge pullback like maybe we've seen in the past. It's a bit of a slowdown, and I think an immediate need is where the consumer is going to be spending. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Todd, who's going to really dig into kind of where this all leads when it comes to the intimates industry and just some of the growth we've been seeing.
Thank you very much. So where do we grow from here? This has been quite a spring for a lot of us in the intimates business and the wholesale retail market. And we're going to get a little bit more specific into spring 22 performance, but I just want to take a moment and celebrate that while business is down for some, actually some people are doing well. And given we had next level growth over the past 2 years, we in the intimates business are still up 17% versus 2019. So that's actually pretty positive news. And that we say that's pretty remarkable, actually, growth. And this seesaw pattern, and thank you, Kristen, for that analogy, it makes so much sense in the intimate space. It's really a reflection of where the consumer is in this moment and a result of all the shifting priorities in her life. While innerwear is down 8% for spring, total women's apparel is actually up 4% as her social progression continues to be less homebound and more out of home. And taking a look at the major categories in women's apparel, we see a distinct shift in the categories that are trending up and trending down. The growth categories, just like Kristen said, are much more about socializing with friends, outside the home, life stage events like weddings and graduations and proms, and then returning to work. Therefore, we see dresses, woven shirts, blouses, pants, and skirts trending up, while innerwear and basics categories, which were doing so well over the past 2 years, kind of resetting to a more normalized demand pattern. And here we look at spring performance over the past 5 seasons. And my team calls this our Zen slide, because what we do when our clients are feeling a little unsure is we say, take a deep breath, turn on the Calm app, and look at this slide. Because the truth is, over the last 5 years, the business has actually gained $1 billion. That's really, really good news to share. And when we layer in sleep, we've actually gained $2 billion in sales in the spring time frame, again, versus 2018, 2019. And the big drivers, again, are bras, non-sport and sport, and sleepwear. And when I think of what's going on in spring 22, 3 words really come to mind: innovation, collaboration, and diversification. Let's start by talking about the innovation from the big 3 intimates retailers. VS launches their Love Cloud with Ultra Comfort and Pretty all wrapped up together in a very comprehensive assortment, doing comfort in a very Victoria's Secret way. Then Soma and its Bodify launch expands into a Demi collection this spring to broaden the reach of their always getting younger consumer. Yes, Soma's consumer is getting younger. Then Aerie does a little Lizzo competitive blocking with the Smoothies Unshapewear collection that they just launched this last week. And again, these 2 brands have really brought sort of a young, colorful, fresh face to shape for the next generation. And then other notable trends are the packaged goods feminine care product companies like Kimberly-Clark, investing in period panty pioneers like Thinx and bringing them to the masses. Such an interesting time for this unique segment of the business. And I think, Lizzo deserves her own slide because, the shapewear collection that she has just makes me smile. She makes me smile. She's full of irreverent empowerment, self-love, and magic. And that's so engaging. So Yitty by Lizzo is fun, colorful, and what does she say? And it's just unapologetically good. And that just really is what shapewear is all about. And it's really bringing her fans and her customers confidence, and that's sort of the core emotion that shapewear provides to women. And Kristen talked a lot about pricing and the consumer's reaction to that. And again, this is really part of that seesaw spring 22 that's in the minds of all consumers. Again, increased material and supply chain costs, I don't need to to tell anyone here, it's no surprise that the intimate apparel average selling price actually was up over last year, and the consumer is feeling an economic pinch in her life. When asking about what's important for her when buying apparel, lower prices and better quality at the top of her selection criterion. All interrelated, as we know, the customer wants better quality for longer lasting products that ultimately stretch the value equation for her. And here is my every curve presentation, we have this slide, and we love to dig into the numbers at NPD. It's what we kind of do. So this is our chart showing 4 years growth. And pre-pandemic, it was all flat, and we talked about it, the industry being mature. But the truth is, the next level growth of 2021 in this business has slowed down a little bit by about 700 million in spring 22. And as you can clearly see, non-sport, sport, and panties all declined, while shapewear and daywear, smaller categories, actually grew around the same rate because they had softer comps in spring 22. Looking at the detail at the category trends, we see that the big categories declined about 6 to 7%, and daywear and shape gained about plus 6 or 7%. Again, the seesaw is definitely at play here. And here we look at how generational segments are shopping for intimates. And while we're always focused on Gen Z and Y because those are the largest cohorts, we have been talking about the power of the Gen X and Boomer consumer in the intimate space over the past probably 8 to 10 months. And it's actually, we're talking about it across all of the industries that NPD tracks because it's definitely a broader trend. And boomers in the intimate space are really driving growth, and that's definitely continuing. And evidence of this is demonstrated in the fact that department stores and better designer brands have had a better spring season than most. And again, older consumers generally like to shop there. So the one thing to remember is definitely make these consumers part of your merchandising strategy. Don't forget the boomer and the Gen Xer. And looking at channel performance, we really see some shifts in the marketplace. Where we were dominated by mass and e-commerce pure play over the last 2 years, we are seeing specialty stores and department stores be winners this year. As you see, consumers want to shop in stores, and the reimagining of the most iconic lingerie brand, Victoria's Secret, is taking place. Specialty stores regained share this spring, which is phenomenal. And then the power of the soft comp is definitely at play for department stores, as again, they didn't have quite as big a boost last year than they're having now. And also that more affluent customer is still shopping as we speak. And speaking of that iconic lingerie brand Victoria's Secret and their sort of reimagining plan, it's really taking place on many levels. In terms of shape and size diversity, Pink added Brenny Bader as a brand ambassador and a size consultant for TikTok. VS is contributing $7 million to women-led businesses. They also added the Happy Nation brand to capture that tween market, again, knowing that Pink customer will age out. And then they had Collab to bring a broader mix of diverse assortments to their merchandise mix. And again, bringing brands that they normally would not have in their store and put them online. But lastly, which I think is great, is VS took the pledge, the 15% pledge that is. And the pledge was founded by fashion designer Aurora James, who created a nonprofit after the George Floyd incident to influence retailers to support Black businesses and have 15% representation on the shelf. Again, it's great to see all these efforts, but it's also great to see this industry leader gaining share back. And then Aerie is always real and uplifting to women and girls, and their current focus is kind of taking wellness to the next level, focusing on mental health and understanding that today's youth, and young women in particular, are more vulnerable to social media and also the isolation during the COVID timeframe. They always seem to know just what to do, and they're always on point, so it's pretty incredible. And then now we're going to kind of take a look at sort of where the intimate shopper is actually shopping as she gets back out there. It's understanding that split between online and in-store that's so important. And again, we heard lots of consumers getting back out there at retail when we look at the intimate shop. And when we look at the intimate shopper online, for total minutes over time, that business has evolved from 41% to about 34%. So it's leveled down to sort of where it's probably going to be for a little while. And again, with online in decline, and from what I see, just shopping in the city on the weekends, the customer is definitely back in store. And when she's getting back to store, why is this happening? Well, I've got some good news for this audience. Curve is all about a retail marketplace for retailers and brands. And the consumer is really drawn to shopping for four distinct reasons. First, no surprise, liking to touch and feel the product, especially lingerie. Second, they can leave with a purchase the same day, get that instant gratification. They prefer to see the whole assortment in store and really see the brand story come to life. And lastly, given the fit-specific nature of intimates, they get to try on the garments in fitting rooms to ensure that it fits before they come home. So the store is alive and well. So where do we grow from here? We kind of like to wrap up our session with perspectives on kind of the 5 key drivers of growth in the intimates business in 22 and beyond. And so the first one is really Comfort and Pretty. Combine them, they're really working well together, and this is how assortments are going to evolve. While many brands have been achieving growth with new categories, new retail collaborations, and social media campaigns, brands and retailers can win by focusing on her need to rebalance her bra wardrobe with prettier styles, with new fabrications, constructions, and innovations. Pretty and comfortable can coexist, and designer brands are actually doing a pretty good job of this. The other factor at play is that customers across the generational spectrum are using lingerie as a form of personal expression, and pretty is part of that. The power of the soft comp in categories, retailers, and brands that didn't have as robust a 2021 is definitely a benefit, and that benefit will play out for the rest of 22 as we're forecasting the businesses. Related is that fact that the consumers reinvigorating their going out wardrobe, stores and channels that focus on this segment of the business, like department stores and specialty stores, are seeing these benefits, and intimate brands that are in those channels are also seeing positive impact. Hence, designer brands like Natori, Wacol, Chantel, and DKNY are doing better based on where they are because consumers are shopping there. Pricing matters, and it's very customer dependent. It's really, as Kristen talked about, it's really important to understand your customer because we have 2 very confusing sort of situations happening in our economy. Everyone's feeling a little pinched by inflation, and I think we can officially say we're in a recession, even though we're not allowed to say it at NPD, but anyways, we'll say here. But we're in a recession, but mass retailers aren't doing well, and they usually do well when times are tough. But luxury brands are continuing to surge ahead. I think Hermes reported a 23% jump in the first 6 months in 22 in the Wall Street Journal this Friday. So the truth is, at the mass end, you need to price for value and refocus an opening price point. And at the higher end of the spectrum, it's deliver on style, luxury innovation, and in-store experience because this consumer is ready and as of today is still spending. And again, talking about that sort of affluent customer, Gen X and boomers are driving growth. In fact, boomers and Xers gained 4 share points, which is truly significant. They have the financial resources and freedom to get out there, enjoy life, and creating products that align with her needs to socialize with family and friends is a winning strategy. And I repeat, never call them mature. And lastly, the store is back. And again, we want to end on a positive note and share that in spring 22, in-store shopping for intimates is back to 66% of business. And that's really good sign, the fact that customers want to feel and touch and experience great customer service. So we want to end on a positive note. Thank you so much for showing up. We always love to present at Curve, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Oh, right, and also if you want to know anything about NPD and our services, please connect with Michelle Chris, our business development person. Any questions? Right. Do you want to answer that?
So we don't have exact color information, so we can't tell you, yeah, she's gravitating more towards a color. But the one thing we are seeing is that Todd kind of coined this phrase. It's shapewear to shape and shapewear to be seen. So we're kind of really seeing this the consumer is leaning towards shapewear, not just to wear under a dress for an event, but to be seen pairing it with pants, wearing it with a blazer. So it's shaping benefits and style that I can wear outside. So it's innerwear, and she's also wearing it as outerwear. So does that translate to color? Possibly, but it's also beautiful detailing and things that could be worn outside of her apparel. Yeah. Any other questions? So again, if something comes to mind after this presentation, please feel free to reach out to Michelle Chris. We can definitely help you with any questions you have on your business, the overall industry, or apparel as well. Thank you.